Hello everyone. I'm just going to wait for a few minutes for a few more people to come online. And then we're going to talk about choosing colors, which seems to be the number one issue that customers have when they come into our shop or when they contact us online, is they have a really deep and abiding fear of choosing colors for themselves. So I want to try to demystify that a little bit. Everybody seems to think that it's one of those things that you have to have a specific talent for. And I don't believe that that's true. I believe that it's a skill, much like learning how to knit, learning how to do different cast-ons, learning how to do cables, that gets better the more that you practice it. Specifically, I want to talk today about choosing colors for a project like the Scylla shawl. The Scylla shawl asks you to look for colors that are of different values. So one of the primary things we're going to talk about today is color value, what it is, and how you identify it. I have put together a little color wheel of yarn. I just pulled these off the shelf. So these are things that are just sitting here. And so this is a typical color wheel, and a color wheel is a tool that has been used in the art world and the craft world for many hundreds of years. There are many different theories that have come together to determine this particular configuration. And what it's really good for is it becomes a really excellent tool for learning how to choose colors. So the color wheel is made up primarily of three primary colors: yellow, red, and blue. And then the colors that are made up, and primary colors are colors that can't be made using other pigments. They are boiled down to the most common denominator. They are not colors that you can mix in any way. But all the colors in between, greens and purples and oranges, are all colors that are made up of mixing primary colors together. And then you can boil that down further by mixing a primary color and a secondary color together to get like a yellow-orange, like this color here, which in some cases when I look at this, I think it's yellow. Sometimes I think it's orange. Those are the kinds of mystery colors in between. Or a blue-violet as opposed to a red-violet. Now, colors and putting them together is a whole science in and of itself. But here are some really good tips for you. If you've got a color wheel, you can superimpose, say, a triangle on top of it, like an equilateral triangle, and it will point to three colors that will go really well together. So blue, yellow, red will create an interesting color combination. Colors are also directly across the color wheel from their complement. So purple and yellow are complementary colors. Orange and blues are complementary, and reds and greens. So all the colors that you see together at Christmas time, the reds and the greens, they are so dynamic because they are a complementary color combination. So that's one way to look at color. Now, here's another interesting thing. When you start mixing colors together, so if you're doing something like really thin, I'm trying to find where the camera is for my hand. Here we go. Where is it? There it is. Really thin stripes of colors that are on opposite sides of the color wheel, it's going to start to look a little bit muddy. But if you use colors that are on around the same side of the color wheel, Those are called analogous colors, and they work really, really nicely together. Think of colors in nature. Things like crocuses and daffodils, irises, and all the greens and yellows that you see in the fields in the springtime. So the Scylla shawl asks you to use 5 colors in total. And of those 5 colors, it says to use 2 that are dark, 2 that are light, and 1 that is somewhere in between the 2 of them. And the reason for that is that it creates a really dynamic color combination. I'm just going to show you what the actual pattern says. So here are the colors that I've chosen. There are 2 lights, L1 and L2. There are 2 darks, D1 and D2. And there's 1 medium. Now, when I was trying to shop online to choose these colors, I was texting with Destiny from Seattle Yarn, who was happy to put together color combinations for me. And what she did is she would send me a picture like this, and I would turn it into a black and white photo. Now, in the black and white photo, you can see color values immediately. You can see the darks are truly dark, the lights are truly light, and the medium is somewhere in the middle. Taking a black and white photo of your color choices makes all the difference in the world. It can mean the difference between choosing colors that you like together and choosing colors that you like together that are also dynamic. And when we look at a black and white photo of the shawl itself, just give me a moment. All the passwords. When we look at a black and white photo of the shawl itself, this is what we see. So it really makes the stripes really, really dynamic. Lots and lots of contrast between them. And it means that each of the stripes becomes really distinct in and of itself. If we look at our color wheel, and then we look at a black and white photograph of the color wheel, I want you to notice something. Even within a color wheel, there is distinct contrast between families of colors. So yellows will always be the lightest part of the color wheel. And blues and purples will always be the darkest. So when you're looking for a color combination and you don't know whether you're getting stuck on colors to choose, you can always go for a different color family. If you need more dark, you can always go for something that's in the purple and blue color range. And if you need something light, you can always go to the yellow and yellowy orange color palette. At this point, do we have any questions? And I'm just going to pause for a minute while we wait. Okay, so I'm going to continue. Now, what happens when you go to a yarn shop and you're presented with a wall of cubicles of yarn or racks of yarn and you don't know how to choose from that? Again, black and white photos, so let me turn the camera around. I took this photo of one of the cubes earlier, and then I made it black and white. And so right away, you can see where the darks are where the lights are, lots and lots of lights in this particular one, and where the medium colors are. I did this again with reds and oranges and pinks. And reds and oranges and pinks. And at first glance, these reds and oranges and the pinks look like they'd make really, really great, bright, contrasting colors. But when we look at them in black and white, they're almost all the same with a couple of exceptions off to the side. So, and one more. Again, really simple to see the different color contrasts. I have a question here. Somebody asking, I know this shawl was designed for contrasting colors, but I was thinking of making this with tornadoes. What do you think? I think that's an excellent idea. So what I would do, if you're going to make it with tornadoes by themselves, you'll notice that one end of the tornado set is dark and the other end is light. So what I might do is mix them up. Make sure that you're contrasting one end with something in the middle, the other end with something in the middle. So if you label them 1, 2, 3, 4, think about doing orders like 1, 3, 5, 2, 4, 2, 5, 4, that kind of thing. In fact, I might take them out of the box, lay them out, and put them in different combinations and take different photographs of them in different orders. The other thing that I would recommend doing with tornadoes is perhaps look at getting a contrasting color. For those of you who don't know what tornado sets are, they're essentially not here at all anymore. Victoria's going to try to grab one for me. Is there one there? No.
We sold out of all of them except for October.
Okay. So we've got one left, so we're going to show it to you. It's essentially a mini skein gradient set. No, I'm sorry, we don't have any. But oh, there we go. We're gonna sneak into somebody's order. Shh! Don't tell anybody who's watching.
Who should we become?
Fiona.
No, it's not.
I know it's not. So, this is a tornado set, and so I would put these in combinations like 1, 3, 5. And then I go back to this one, and then maybe this one again, and then this one. Or the other thing that you can do is choose a dark contrast or a light contrast to go with your tornadoes, and alternate between the darker color and one of the colors in the tornado set. And that way you can keep them in order. Another question, when selecting which skeins to make L1 or L2, and the same for the dark skeins, is there something we should take into account? Or do all the colors mix throughout the shawl, mix up throughout the shawl, so it doesn't really matter? In fact, when we were choosing sets for kits on the website, what I did is I went into all of our regular colors, and I chose all the ones that were dark, all the ones that were light, and all the ones that were medium, and I put them into 3 different groups. And then randomly picked 2 from the dark pile, 2 from the light pile, 1 from the medium pile, and did that 4 or 5 times to get the sets that we have on the website. So it turns out, and I wasn't looking at the actual colors when I did this. I just had the color names in front of me. So it wasn't like I was tweaking them and adjusting them. I was just handing over names of colors to see what would happen when we put them together. Could they truly be randomly put together? And it turns out they can. In the end, all of the color combinations that we have on the website are great. They're wonderful. And there was absolutely no special tweaking that happened. It was simply putting and categorizing the yarn by dark, medium, and light. In fact, that could be a way that you start organizing your stash. You can do it by color as well, but if you want to do a lot of stripe projects and color work projects, if you start dividing your yarn and categorizing it by value, by dark, medium, light, and even smaller differences in between those, so medium dark, medium light, for example, then you're going to be able to find color combinations from your stash faster and easier. In fact, it's something that I've started to do because I'm really getting that it's the value piece of the puzzle is really, really important. So, choosing yarn for Scylla. The other trick that I have for you is when you're doing any sort of shawl like this, including Scylla, make sure that you're not just choosing colors that you love, you're also choosing colors you don't like so much. So my favorite color in the world, let me show you the color wheel again, is this one. Where am I? No, that way. Is this color here, this kind of bluey purple. My least favorite color in the world used to be this acidy yellowy green color. Turns out, when you put these two colors together, they're magical together. And this is also why we use these as our business colors, because I absolutely love them. You can see the tag poking up over here in the background. So when you're choosing colors for a shawl, also remember to bring out colors that you love as well as colors that you don't like, as well as dividing them into dark, mediums, and lights, and you will get some amazing, amazing color combinations. Another color I don't like so much, this yellowy orangey kind of color. But when you put this next to this, that is also magical. And when you start bringing other purples in there, it's beautiful. And it turns out that those are the colors that are in flowers like irises. Yes, Meg, I am trying to get you to use orange. Rosie's asking, do you think it would be okay to mix bases for this shawl if it's the same weight? Is color the more important factor? Rosie, yes, color is the more important factor. As much as I am a fan of using the same base throughout the entire shawl, I think that in this particular case to get that really dramatic effect. So I would highly recommend choosing color over base. So if you have lots of different bases in your stash, don't be afraid to mix them up if they're the same weight. I mean, if you start mixing DK and fingering, then you've got a texture thing happening as well. And there's nothing wrong with that either. But if you want all the same sort of fabric, use the same weight, but don't be afraid of mixing up bases. It's something that I'm trying to encourage people to do more because there's absolutely nothing wrong with doing that. Diane, are you laughing at the Meg comment? I think you are probably. Let me see. Are there any other questions? So I think I'm going to end this for today. I'm going to show you our color wheel one more time. My messed up color wheel now that I've moved all my favorites to the middle. Oh, here's another combination I think is magic. This red with this kind of icy bluey green. Oh, so beautiful. And again, they're not colors I would normally choose to go together, but how dynamic would that be in a shawl with a few other things added in? So that's going to be it for today's color class. Next week, I'm going to talk more about hand-dyed yarns and how we use them, what you need to be aware of when you're working with variegated yarns, speckled yarns, tonal yarns, semi-solid yarns. So I think we'll do this next Tuesday at 2 o'clock. Watch Instagram and I will I will post a notice letting you know for sure. Don't be afraid to send me pictures of some of your problem skeins, either through Instagram or through email, and I'd be happy to bring them into the conversation next week. And that's about it for today. Thanks so much for joining us. Remember, we have a tip jar in the link in the bio of our Instagram accounts to allow us to keep doing these basically for free for the general public. And if you'd like to help us continue to do that, feel free to drop us a few coins for Victoria's tea, Ron's coffee, and the dog's treats. And that gives us energy and helps us keep going. Thanks so much for joining us. We're going to post this on YouTube, and we'll see you all soon. I hope. Bye. I want to end it.